Hey guys, Lunch Money Comics here. It is a brisk autumn morning back here in Rieta Flea Market in Hubbardston, Massachusetts. Let's go find some comic books. Okay, I saw some familiar faces, got a couple of comic books I'm pretty happy with, but this is only part one of my day. Part two, I'm driving to Greenfield, Massachusetts, where they're having a special vintage days. Lots of sort of outdoor vendors, lots of sales, things like that. And there is a comic book store there, and they're having a big sale. So let's go head over there and see what they got. Thank you so much. Have a good one. So I'm a few minutes early, but I'm gonna walk around downtown Greenfield here, check out their vintage days. I got my New England cider donut here. Pretty excited about this. Fall is here after all. See you guys in the store. How's it going? All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Yeah, you too. Cool. So that was a great store. I think he has like the best wall books of any store in Western Massachusetts. Absolutely. Just fantastic stuff. I ended up with 2 comic books that have been on my wish list for a really long time, and I got a great discount on them because of the festival going on. So I can't wait to go home and show you guys what I got. So there you go, guys. That was a pretty busy morning for me. I got up nice and early and went back to Rieta Flea Market in Hubbardston, Massachusetts. And although there weren't a ton of comic books there, I did bump into some familiar faces and ended up with 3 comic books I'm quite happy to have. And then I took a little bit of a detour. I ended up going to a comic book shop in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Now, normally I don't show myself picking through comic book shops on my channel, but this was a special situation, and I'll tell you about it later. I definitely got 2 comic books I'm absolutely thrilled to add to my collection. So let's start with the flea market. Of all the times I've ever been there, I think this might have been the largest I've ever seen it, or at least the busiest. There were more vendors than I've ever seen before, and there were a ton of people. I don't know if it was the nice, cool fall weather that got them out there, but despite the fact that it was sort of hopping, it probably had the least amount of comic book vendors I've seen since I've been going there. But I had 2 vendors there that I bumped into, old familiar faces, tried and true, that I bought comic books from in the past, and they always have great stuff. So I ended up buying from them, and that was fine. So I ended up with some pretty decent stuff. So first up, I bumped into Kit from Amazing Comics. I've talked about him in the past. I'll make sure to put a link to his website down in the description. And, you know, he always has really good stuff. He has this sort of a lower tier, cheaper comic books right out there on the table. And then he has the really good stuff in the car. So I always look through the good stuff. I never look through sort of the cheaper bins. And that's what I did first today. So first up, I ended up with Avengers 147. So this is from 1976. Really cool cover by Jack Kirby. And the reason why this one jumped out to me is that the Avengers are fighting the Squadron Supreme. Now, I've talked about them on my channel in the past. I really like the Squadron Supreme. I think they're pretty cool. I think they have a chance of showing up on the silver screen at some point in time. In this case here, they're actually calling them the Squadron Sinister, sort of like the evil version of them, or at least the, you know, the antagonistic version of them. So really cool cover by Jack Kirby. I think the pencils on the inside by George Perez. So really cool comic book. I'm probably going to crack it open and give this one a good read. So then I started going through Kit's short box of really good comic books, and like I wanted everything in that box. Really great stuff. But there was one comic book that really jumped out to me. Now, anyone who watches my channel knows I'm a huge X-Men fan, and I grew up in the 90s, so naturally, one of my favorite X-Men is Gambit. He was awesome in the Jim Lee run of X-Men. He was also really cool in the animated series, which I watched a lot as a kid. And comic book-wise, most people consider his first appearance to be this book. This is the Uncanny X-Men number 266 from 1990. Gambit was created by Chris Claremont. Here he is, Gambit, with a de-aged Storm on the front. And yeah, most people, I say most people, consider this to be his first appearance. It's certainly his first full appearance and his first full cover appearance. I did not buy this at the flea market. This is one from my personal collection. What I did buy was this one. Now, this book here is X-Men Annual number 14. This actually came out a few weeks before number 266. And why does that matter? Well, this is often cited as Gambit's first cameo appearance. I kind of disagree with that for several reasons. One, Gambit's in like 15 panels in this book, and he has like 10 lines of dialogue. That's not really a cameo, that's an appearance. But furthermore, this comic book here actually takes place sequentially after this book here. So there's a lot of debate over whether this should be considered Gambit's first appearance or not. I think it's just a quirk of, you know, production or printing or shipping that this came out a few weeks before this one. I think for all intents and purposes, this was supposed to come out first and this continued the story. But nevertheless, because this came out chronologically a few weeks before the other one, a lot of people cite this as the first appearance of Gambit. I could go on and on and on about, you know, the order of these things, about which one came first, about what constitutes a cameo versus a first appearance. I'm not going to do that. Plenty of other YouTubers have talked about this, you know, wax poetic for years on it. What I did want to point out was this. I did not own this book, and even though I don't really consider it his first appearance, as a Gambit lover, I felt like I kind of needed it, and it kind of keeps going up in value. I think it's because a lot of people are getting priced out of this book, and this is a great sort of second option. But even then, I still probably wouldn't have bought this book if it wasn't for one fact. The condition of this is incredible. This is a square bound book. I'm not sure if you can see it. But these, these take spine ticks like horribly. This always shows damage. They kind of get skewed and crushed. This is almost flawless. There's only a few barely detectable non-color breaking, damage on the spine. This book is beautiful. So for that reason alone, I kind of thought it was worth getting it. I like Gambit. I have the other book. It's great condition. I thought it was worth adding. I got it for a great price from Kit. So happy to have this book to go along with this one. Absolutely. So after I bought these two books, I headed inside to the barn where I knew there was another comic book vendor. His name is David. I've looked through his stuff a whole bunch of times. I bought stuff from him. I've traded comic books with him. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to find that he was having a special sale for the fall. And he was starting it actually a little early, so I was there just in time. And I didn't have much time. I kind of wanted to rush off and go to that comic book store in Greenfield, but I went back to the X-Men books and started flipping through them really quick to see if there was anything I didn't have or I wanted. And I did find a comic book I was interested in. This is Xforce number 11. This is from 1992. This is a pretty cool cover with, Deadpool fighting Domino. I guess this is Domino's second appearance. She was impersonated by, I think, Copycat in the issues before this. We get Shatterstar on the front. Very sort of iconic Rob Liefeld cover. Lots of tiny feet on there for you Rob Liefeld fans. And I think this is actually like the third cover appearance of Deadpool. Really cool early Deadpool. I don't love X-Force that much, or even Deadpool or Domino, but I just thought this was a great presenting book, and mostly this comic book is in fantastic shape. It's perfect. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I couldn't find anything detectable, no spine ticks, no indentations, no nothing. So I got it for a really great price because he was having a sale, and I'm happy to have this book. I'm sure I could use it for like trade bait if anyone loves Deadpool, but even if I didn't, I kind of like having this comic book. It's a pretty cool comic book. So as I explained in the footage, I wanted to head over to Greenfield, Massachusetts. It's a small city. It's kind of near like the border with Vermont, and it was about 45 minutes away from the flea market I was at. And the reason I wanted to go was because the whole city was having this like what they were calling vintage days. It was kind of like a fall festival where a lot of the vendors, in the city were having discounts, and there were special things out on the comm and stuff like that. I got a fantastic cider donut. But there was a comic book store that was having a really great deal on older comic books. They were having like 25% off anything under $75. And I heard really good things about this store anyways and have wanted to check it out for a while. Now, to be clear, I don't often like to pick through comic book stores on this channel. It's mostly flea markets and tag sales and that sort of thing. But I sort of made an exception here because it was sort of a fall festival type thing. I thought I could get some pretty good deals that were better than, like fair market value. So that's why I decided to make it part of this footage. And I'm happy I did because I got some really cool stuff. And the name of the store is His and Her Comics. I'll make sure to put a link to the website down in the description. And the wall books were fantastic. Some of the best wall books I've seen in any store in New England. It was pretty cool. I also found out that they are actually the sponsors of the Western Mass Comic Book Show, which I've talked about a lot on this channel. Of course, I immediately went to the X-Men books and I found this one. So this is special double-size X-Men number 137. This, of course, is the end of the Dark Phoenix saga. It's also the death of Jean Grey. This, of course, is written by Chris Claremont. Amazing cover by John Byrne. This is one of those books I feel like is perennially undervalued. We always put such a precedence on, first appearances of characters. We very seldom put, precedence on like someone's death or a major like paradigm shift in a comic book. Death, I kind of understand. Characters never stay dead in comic books, especially Jean Grey of all people. But this is one of those comic books that really, fundamentally changed the X-Men. This was a huge story for so long. Jean Grey was supposed to stay dead. Of course, she didn't. But, Cyclops leaves the team. This is a great comic book, and I feel like it's always undervalued. Maybe it's undervalued because they've tried filming this saga twice, and it failed both times. I don't think this is a story that's going to come back in movies anytime soon. But it's still such a great book. And really happy to have it. I think he had a sticker price of $50, with a 25% off. I got it for what, $37.50. So yes, Uncanny X-Men number 137, Death of Jean Grey. Awesome book to add to the collection. So right near the X-Men books, I spied a comic book I've wanted for so long, and that I really had kind of resigned myself to not getting this book anytime soon for reasons I'm about to explain. But the book I'm talking about is this. This is The Man-Thing number 1 from 1974. This is the first appearance of Man-Thing in his own series. He first appeared in a magazine called Savage Tales number 1 from 1971. He's another swamp creature. He's very similar to Swamp Thing and also The Heap, which came out, back in the 40s. There's a whole really interesting story about the creation of both Man-Thing and Swamp Thing, how they came out in the same year, you know, and the creators of both were like roommates at the time. You should look it up. It's pretty fascinating. But Man-Thing technically came first. He's a great Marvel character. He has so much overlap with like Marvel's like the occult, you know, and never mind their horror books and magic books, things like that. He's just a really, really neat character. But the reason I've always wanted this is the cover. So this cover is fantastic. I think it's by Frank Bruner. Just awesome. Look at it. It's really, really great. And I mentioned that I kind of resigned myself to not getting this book anytime soon because I kind of dragged my feet. I'm like, it's not worth that much money. I'm sure I'll find it at a flea market at some point. And then I saw the trailer to Werewolf by Night. Now, at the time of me filming this segment right now, Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus has not come out yet. That's coming out in a few weeks from when I'm filming this, but the trailer came out a few weeks ago and there was a split-second shot of Man-Thing. And I had a pit in my stomach when I saw that because I'm like, here comes all the people who want to FOMO and buy this book. It's going to skyrocket. Sure enough, it did. It started going up in value and I'm like, I'm not going to get this book for anything cheap anytime soon. I'll just wait for the hype to die down and then I'll get this book like in a year. Well, I didn't have to wait that long because here in this comic book store, I found this book. It had a sticker price of $35. So I think I got it for like 26 bucks with the discount. Really cool comic book, guys. I love the way this looks. You know, it's not in the best shape. There's a lot of spine ticks along the spine. You know, a lot of color breaks. But I think I'm going to give this to my friend Jeff at Comic Spa. I have him do all my comic book pressing and cleaning. I've discussed him in the past. I'll definitely talk about him more in the future. I'll make sure to put a link down in the description to his contact. I love this book. I think this book is absolutely killer. I got it for a great price. You know, hopefully he makes more than a split-second appearance, you know, in Werewolf by Night. I'm hoping that he's around kind of for the long run. He's a cool character too. I think he like guards like the nexus of the multiverse, you know, in the Everglades or something like that. So maybe with all those, you know, multiverse storylines going on in the MCU, maybe it isn't just a cameo. Maybe they hope to use, you know, Man-Thing more. I hope so. He's a wicked cool monster. Look at him. He's great. Hey guys, I'm going to pause the video real quick. I have now seen Werewolf by Night, and I'm happy to say that Man-Thing's in it. It's a little more than a cameo, and he is awesome. All right, back to the program. So all in all, I think I got two pretty great comic books at this comic book shop. Like I said, I usually don't like to show picking comic book shops because you have to end up paying like retail. It's not really in the spirit of my channel, but I made an exception here because I got such a good deal on these and the comic books I really wanted and really want to share with YouTube. So let me know down in the comments, guys, what you think of these books. Did I get a great deal on them? And would you like to see more footage of me picking through comic book stores? At the flea market itself, I got three pretty cool comic books. I got a great, you know, Jack Kirby Avengers Squadron Supreme book. I got a pretty cool Xforce Rob Liefeld cover with Deadpool and Domino. And of course, I got a sort of controversial Gambit key that I didn't have in my collection. I'm happy to have it. I think I got some pretty good deals. I think the best deal I got of the day, if I'm being honest, was that $2 cider donut. It was pretty awesome. So that's it, guys. You know, thank you so much for watching. If you like the channel and you've made it this far, please go down, hit that like button, leave a comment. I love reading them. And, you know, and consider subscribing. If you haven't already, I have so much footage I've already filmed this fall that has yet to come out. I wouldn't want you to miss it. So in the meantime, guys, keep hitting those flea markets. I hope you find comic books in strange and unusual places as well. And I'll see you guys next time at the flea markets. Thanks for watching.